Welcome to Uniquely Brilliant, a podcast for creative, quirky, and extraordinary thinkers of all ages and the people who love them. We encourage, inspire, and provide strategies to motivate you to embrace your unique brilliance and realize your potential for success. Hi, I'm Diana Bader, also known as Coach Di. I encourage teens and young adults to become who they are and develop personal success through self-awareness and positivity. You can find me at freshcanvascoaching.com, follow and like the Fresh Canvas Facebook page, or follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Di.
Hello there, I'm Becky Berry. I am a performance coach who helps people level up their lives by smoothing out the relationship between their work lives and their personal lives. You can find my website at beckyberrycoach.com. I'm on Twitter at Becky Berry Coach, and you can find me on my Facebook page, Becky Berry Coach.
Together we are here sharing our thoughts, insights, and experiences from our own uniquely brilliant perspective. Okay, it's episode 113. Wow.
Holy smokes.
And today we are going to talk about how a podcast changed our lives.
Diana goes, this is yours, Becky. So a podcast did change my life. I listen to podcasts all the time. I started listening to them 4 years ago when I started on this entrepreneurial journey after I had quit teaching. And my gateway drug, my gateway to this addiction was looking for an interview with Seth Godin. He had just published his book, What to Do When It's Your Turn. It's Always Your Turn. And so I'm looking to where I can find him, and he's on this podcast called Hack the Entrepreneur. So I find it, and I download it because I'm progressive. I can do that. And I listen to that episode, and then I'll listen to another one, and I'll listen to another one. And somehow I find my way to Michael Hyatt, and I find my way to Srini Rao, the Unmistakable Creative, and those are the three that I started with. The one that changed my life was Hack. I love podcasts, and I like to interview podcasts because I just get so much information and so many different points of view, and it's just rich. It's a very rich format. So John Nasser on Hack the Entrepreneur interviews entrepreneurs, and one of the devices he uses is at the end he goes, "So what's the hack?" He said a lot of good things. He did a lot, but what's the hack? So I was just addicted because I thought that was such a teachery, awesome kind of thing. So I listened to it, and I would listen to 3 or 4 at a time. And one day I'm out in the backyard, which is 3 acres, just so you can get a picture, on my riding mower, mowing, with my earplugs in, which, serve a dual purpose. Keeps out the noise from the lawnmower, the riding lawnmower. Please, I'm not pushing 3 acres. And I'm just listening and listening and listening. And all of a sudden it dawns on me that there's nothing wrong with me. That it's okay that I'm always interested in the next thing. That I used to change jobs every 6 months because I was bored. I couldn't figure out what to major in college. I never wanted to do what people said I should do because it was boring.
Yep.
It was boring. There were so many choices. Well, there's a word for that, and it's called entrepreneurship. And I've been an entrepreneur, I guess, on and off all my life, because I did the babysitting thing like we've talked about, like you did. I've done, I can't even remember all the things. Me, who hates accounting and bookkeeping, I sold accounting software for myself. I mean, it was my consultant business. Yeah. I don't know where that came from, but I did it.
Yep.
I did it. So, for decades, because I'm 54 years old. Well, am I 54? I'm older. I'm 55 years old at least. 50. I'm 56 years old listening to this and going, there's nothing wrong with me. Mm-hmm. When I have spent 56 years going, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just do this and pick this path and go through this path and just do it and just do it? Because that's just not the way I'm built. So it changed my life.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine being 56 years old and going, oh, I'm okay. I've always felt I'm okay, but it was better than I'm okay. It's okay to be like this. Actually, it's great to be like this. And what had happened probably simultaneously with this is I had found the Fascination Advantage Assessment. Came out at the same time. Sally launched it at the same time I was starting coaching, and I took it, and I came back as the maverick leader. And my advantages are innovation and power.
Mm-hmm.
Well, innovation is the hallmark of an entrepreneur. Again, I didn't know it. So here's this critical mass of information. Srini Rao is talking to unmistakable creatives. People are creative in different ways. I've never thought of myself as particularly creative. Well, I'm very creative. It's just with people. And he's talking to teachers and like professors at Stanford's D School and all these really cool people. And John's talking to all these entrepreneurs. Some of them are women. Michael Hyatt's talking about how to do all this. And I'm like, whoa, I found my people and this is okay.
Yeah, that's so important.
Right? Do you remember that? I shared it on Facebook. I think I tagged you about being too much.
Uh-huh.
Right? Well, most entrepreneurs are too much. But when you're a teenage girl in 1975 and you're too much, it means A, you never have a date. And B, you have your select group of friends who understand that that's you and will roll their eyes at you, or be blindly supportive, both of which are critical. Right? And a friend set. And, oh, by the way, they're still my friends. So just listening to that, identifying with them, just having those different points of view just changed everything for me.
Oh, yeah. I can see that. And that's one of the cool things I think about podcasts is you can find somebody who gets you.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. We get you. That's why we're here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think if it may take a little listening and stuff, but you can
Trying.
find, you can find people that get you who speak to what you're interested in, to speak to who you are.
At that moment. Because I don't listen to Michael Hyatt anymore, except like on a rare occasion. But he was what I needed then.
And that's the thing with the podcast is that you can, change them up, move them around.
And I just started listening to Hack again. I had stopped listening to it in the middle. I had too many male voices in my head. And I had stopped listening to it in the middle, and now I'm back. And every time I listen to an episode, it doesn't just impact me personally. It impacts what I bring to the table when I'm working with my coaching clients and my coaching groups. It's just working that way, and I listen, Hack is an entrepreneurship one. Unmistakable Creative is too, but my other favorite one of mine's a tech podcast, straight up Recode, which is like tech. She's talking about Uber. I just listened to an episode about how Netflix ran their company because it's a fabulous place to work. They treat people like adults, and it shows. That's how they got to be so innovative. And then I listened to my 2 Happier podcasts. I listened to Happier with Gretchen Rubin, and I listened to Happier in Hollywood Happier is with Gretchen and Liz, and Happier in Hollywood is with Liz and Sarah, her writing partner. So it's just all different stuff. And I pick one. Excuse me. Alec Baldwin, here's the thing. How many times have I told you there's an episode you need to listen to? Because he talks to politicians. He talks to entertainment people. He talks to scientists. He talked to the president of Doctors Without Borders right after. Do you remember, like 3 years ago, maybe they were bombed?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And he talked to her, and she was very frank, and it was great. So it's just it can be such a rich experience. I will listen to a podcast instead of watching TV now. I'll go back to my bedroom. I think I'll watch TV. I'm like, no, I'm going to go get my phone because I don't keep it in my bedroom, and I'll bring it in and I'll listen to a podcast instead.
Well, and there's so much, I don't want to call it downtime, but there's so much time that we are doing other things that we could be listening to stuff.
I get in the car, first thing that happens, fire up a podcast.
Yeah. Especially if you've got a heck of a commute, it's a great way to kill time. I mean, I used to listen to, back in the day, a lot of radio shows that way, but this way you get to pick what you want to hear.
It's radio
when you
on
want to hear
demand.
it. Yeah.
Because people who don't know what podcasts are, I just say it's on-demand radio.
Yes. Yeah, I was trying to explain it to my grandfather.
Yeah.
I said, remember when you used to sit around the radio and listen to stuff? I said, you can do that now.
Right.
I said, but now people sit around their phones or their iPads or whatever else.
Right. Oprah has a podcast. All kinds of people have podcasts.
Yeah.
What do you listen to?
What, podcasts?
Uh-huh.
I don't listen to anything on a regular basis. I did for a long time. I listen to I have a lot of friends who have podcasts, so I listen to their podcasts off and on. I'll like sort of binge listen.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to rattle them all off because I'm going to forget somebody and then I'll feel bad. But I'll try to put some of them in the notes. But
Oh, wait, you had no. Sorry, not letting you off. The Dad podcast. That's my favorite. I've listened. to
5
that
Minutes with Dad.
Yeah, that. Sorry, you have to talk about that.
Oh my God. Well, and if you, I'm following, Nick Pavlidis and his son, and now his daughter's on there too. Yeah, he started this 5 Minutes with Dad with his son when, oh wow, I can't think of how old he was, but
It was like 3 or 4 years ago because it was one of the ones you told me about when we started our podcast.
Yeah, he was like 4 or 5 at the time, and he just gets on there and talks with his son. It was one of those it was an idea that came to him to bond with his son. He was getting ready to do his own podcast, but it was an idea to bond with his son, and it has gotten all sorts of awards. It's been written up in all sorts of magazines. It's like off the charts.
Well, because it's brilliant.
It is, and it's fun.
Concept is brilliant,
and it's so much fun. And they're so good together. I mean, Nick is so great at drawing his kids out, and and it's fun when they're kids. So sometimes they surprise him.
Right. So that brings up a great question. What makes a great podcast for you?
Oh, see, this is the thing, because I am a person. Sometimes I need to be entertained. Sometimes I'm looking for information.
Right.
Sometimes I just want that support of, okay, you're not the only person like you out there.
Right. Is that when you listen to us? Just checking. Just checking.
I listen. If we go there, the podcast that changed my life was this one. Because
all right, well, that's what we're doing. So speak.
Yeah, well, because I was looking at speaking,
right,
and I hadn't developed my voice, and so one of the things that working on this podcast
physical
for
voice,
me, my physical
or point of view voice,
kind of both. And being able to explore it,
yeah,
and my thoughts and just everything. So being able to work on this podcast, I don't think I could have done one by myself. I mean, I could have, but I think I would have bored myself.
Right.
I needed the back and forth.
Right.
And so, and getting your different point of view.
Right.
So just even by recording, stuff will come out of your head or stuff will come out of my head, and it's like, oh, and when I re-listen to it, it's like, oh, we were really good there, or God, I hope she edits that.
And just for full disclosure, she has never sent me a note to ask me to edit stuff.
No, because some things I'll listen to. She's going to edit that. we're in enough sync that there's pretty much stuff.
Right,
that I know.
right. That's the beauty of being the producer and the editor, as I get to pick and choose. Well, I like the way you talk about finding your voice, because literally that's what hack gave me, was my voice.
Yes.
It literally gave me my hacking, and unmistakable creative gave me my voice. Let me reclaim my voice.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's...
Let me reclaim my voice. It framed it up for me. How about that? It framed it up for me in ways that allowed me to just... that thing I always say about like falling back into a mattress, like just fall back into my voice and relax with it and not be fighting it because there was something wrong with the way I wanted to do things. And also, it's given me a different lens. I almost said filter, but I'm not filtering anything out. I'm looking more deeper. I'm looking more deeply, is known as deeper, into why my voice is the way it is, or what I want my voice to be, and am I really being authentic, or is there some noise in here that's making what's coming out of my mouth different from my intention? And that's a pretty powerful thing.
Oh, it is. It is. And actually, it's kind of funny. I did everything backwards, but that's not unusual. But listening to podcasts got me listening to my books.
Oh yeah,
as
Audible,
opposed to reading them all the time, which has been helpful too, because then I can do that in different times and space. And what really became important to me is sort of what you're talking about, is the people in my head. So it helped me choose who I really would. You pick up people all the time. We've talked about this. Yeah. We did an episode on it. You pick up people everywhere that are in your head, and what I found is, I can kick some out and I can find some new ones. And so by listening to podcasts and exploring podcasts, I can go, oh, hold on. And sometimes, it may just be an episode or two that really speaks to me. And sometimes it may be the whole person.
Right. Well, mine, I love Recode because I love Kara Swisher, because that's my voice on another podcast. Because she is like, she just cuts to it. She doesn't take any junk. And she's been in tech almost 10 years less than I have, but in a different way since the 90s. So she has this perspective. So when I hear her, sometimes I just laugh. I'm like, I can't believe she said that. And I'm like, I'm so glad she said that. I would say that. She's also the person who gave me the construct that I use when I do group coaching. That context and perspective thing I've told you about. Because her constant refrain is, there are all these brilliant people in Silicon Valley. There are all these brilliant tech people, and they're not doing anything to help anybody.
Yeah.
Nothing. They're not changing the world. They're changing little pieces of the world. But these are some of the smartest people walking the planet Earth. And what are they doing? So I started thinking about that, and she was talking about bridging tech to real, to real world problems and stuff. And I started picturing people who were losing their jobs to tech jobs and why retraining doesn't work. And, and I've heard her say this, and I've listened to her, and I always know the story she's talking about because I've read it somewhere else or read her writing on it when she breaks it. And it occurred to me that retraining can't work unless you can picture yourself doing the new job.
Oh, that's
and nobody
so true.
does that.
Yeah.
Here, this is how these machines work. Robots are our friends. No. Wrong. Incorrect. No. Here's what it looks like. You did this. Can you picture doing this? You used to, you've been technical all along. You just don't think of using a wrench as a technical thing. You don't think of those minute adjustments you make on the line to being technical, but you are very technical. And now this just lets you use your technical expertise in a different way and have way more impact, because that robotic arm or that software lets you impact 100 things instead of 10.
Yeah.
They're not doing it. I'm like, is this rocket science? Must be. It must be, because I'm just saying to you, retraining would work if you can help somebody picture themselves and give them the context. Straight up from a podcast.
Yep.
Well, I don't know how many of hers I've listened to, but literally straight up from a podcast where I got to take an idea and chew on it, and because it resonated so strongly with me, and then use it to actually I am changing people's lives because she said that.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's great. And I think that's really important, because you never know what you're going to get out of a podcast. We never know what we're going to say out of a podcast.
Right.
So if we don't know, and maybe something, it's a lot like a book, it might sit there and percolate for a while.
Right.
Until the timing's right.
Well, plus you kind of get out of it what you put into it. If you're listening to it and you're interested. How many times does this happen to you? Well, and I really literally listen to a podcast every time I get in the car, and I get in the car a lot. Even if it's a 5-minute trip, I put it in. And I'll go, wait. They just said something, because my mind's off, the grocery store, whatever. I'm like, wait, they just said something. And luckily I have Apple CarPlay in my car, and I can go back and find it. But it's, when I do listen carefully, I have those garage moments, those carport moments. You know what I'm talking about? They talk about them on NPR. You get to the end of they're almost to the end of the story. You pull into your carport and you're like, I can't leave. Yep. I got to sit right here and listen to it. I have that with podcasts all the time. Even though I can stop them and come back, I don't want to. What? How did she do that? How did you make that happen?
You take it in the house and listen on your phone, but there's something.
I'm just sitting there. I don't want to stop.
Yep, and there's something about that, being sitting in that car, because your attention's much more focused. You go in the house and you're going to start thinking about a million other things.
And I want to know how the story ends. I don't like to wait. Do not like to wait.
Right? You.
Well,
Well,
another entrepreneurial attribute that I now know is normal. That I fight against. Just so you know, full disclosure, I know it's not a great thing. A podcast is where I heard the talents that brought you to this place. I heard it on Hack. I can picture the episode. I just can't bring it up in my mind, the person's name. That what brought you here, the skills and talents and gifts that brought you to being an entrepreneur, will not take you to the next level. Which is why my word of the year is steady. Straight up. I can hear the voice in my head saying that right now. Straight up from that bit of information that got dropped in my ear like 3 years ago. I wrote about it, I think.
Well, it's really interesting because until I got into the entrepreneurial space, I mean, not that I was ever not in it. You know, we talk about all the time, all the stuff growing up that I did and you know, would lose interest in or whatever. Mm-hmm. Not unlike you. When we went to, when I first went to a business conference, let's see, gosh, almost 5 years ago now. That was when I was first introduced to podcasts. I'd heard about them, hadn't really done much with them, but the host of the conference had one, and almost everybody there had already listened to it. I'd never listened to it. But it got me surrounded by these people and that had these big ideas, and then be able to listen to them, you know, away from the conference and hear. That was just really amazing. But it was something that I was very unfamiliar with, and I'm still surrounded by people who have no idea what a podcast is.
Me too. And on the other hand, my friend Becky, who's my attorney and like my all-around really great friend, she had a podcast the first go-around, like in 2004 or 5, right? It's craziness.
Wow.
Yeah. Way back, because I remember walking on the Greenway and thinking, and we were talking, I was, you know, on our phones or whatever, maybe I was with her, and she was talking about it, I'm like, what's a podcast? Mm-hmm. How do you do that? Yeah. And look, 113 episodes later, hello.
Exactly, and it's still not reaching so many people.
Right. You guys can help with that. Go rate us if you're listening on iTunes or Google Play. Please go rate us. It really helps us reach more people.
Yeah, and share our episode. Share the episode on Facebook or...
We put them up there on Facebook. Yeah, absolutely. It just is... Well, I mean, it just goes with everything else you and I like, which is just more info. More info, but it's not a course. We swore off courses. We swore off courses, and you know,
it's part of our growth mindset,
right?
Yeah, it's in our toolbox for the growth mindset.
I just like listening. I like listening. I think it was on Happier with Gretchen Rubin. They talked to the woman who was Happier in Hollywood, because they talked to the woman from The Office. She just wrote a book. I can't remember her name. She had the strawberry blonde hair. And she was talking about doing the work, even though you're not getting the jobs or you're not getting the, you know, you do the work. And it was just great. Mm-hmm. It was just a reminder that you just keep showing up. And I think, everything I listen to has that sitting under it. You know, just be disruptive. Those are my entrepreneurial ones. That's Recode. And how not to be disruptive, because she broke the harassment story at Uber, and then just interesting. I am so interested in people. That just feeds that.
How do you think somebody should start by finding a podcast that?
I would look like, if you have this may sound trite, but I'm serious. If you have a favorite movie star, TV star, Oprah. You know, Shonda Rhimes. I think Shonda has I don't know if she has a podcast, but somebody has one. You can look in lifestyle. You can just Google it, because podcasts don't just live on iTunes so much anymore. So you can search somebody you're interested in hearing. You know, if you like Alec Baldwin, go try out Here's the Thing. You can look at formats. You know, you just different.
Yeah.
Because the categories in iTunes, as we know, trying to find our category, are bad. So, and there's so many. I'd also talk to, if you know any friends who listen to podcasts, ask them. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's too. I think also authors.
That's what I was just going to say. People you read,
people you read, people you want to know. You know, business leaders. Mm-hmm. There's lots of stuff with that.
People who show up in your Facebook feed.
Yeah,
you know, because a lot of people like us have podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just anything you're interested in. I mean, sometimes it might be the easiest thing to do is to start with a category.
Right, like family. There's a family category.
Yeah, and there's a humor one. If you're having a bad day, pull up something.
Lifestyle. Mm-hmm. We're now in lifestyle, because we saw that our favorite podcasts that we thought were most like us, like Happier, they're in lifestyle. We went, okay, we're moving.
Yep. But
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But there's so many different ones out there that you can, you know, just to expand And it doesn't, and
they're free. Hello.
Oh.
They're free.
Yeah.
The platforms to listen to them
Right.
are free. iTunes is a free app. Google Play is a free app. We're on SoundCloud. That's free. You know, we put them up on YouTube. The newer ones are on YouTube. That's free. So you don't have to pay. It's not a pay to play.
Yeah, that's actually really important because in this day and age of paying for a lot of that stuff, that's real important.
That's another episode.
This is one of the free things that you can get.
Right.
And the other thing that I always looked at with mine was the length of time, because sometimes I have a longer attention span, sometimes not so much. Mm-hmm. And so I listen to them based on how long they are, actually.
Well, yeah. I mean, this one I just listened to from Recode was an hour. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd kill to listen to Alec Baldwin for an hour. Those are my favorites when he's on there for an hour. Because I like, what makes a great podcast for me is straight up the interviewer. Because a good interviewer can pull stuff out of anybody.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? I kind of like the formats, although we don't have a really standard format because neither one of us can spell that word. I like a format, you know. I like it if it makes sense to me. Like John's with the What's the Hack, and Srini has something he does. I don't know what it is. I don't remember. And other ones have, you know, plug and play parts like the best of or something. You know, they pull in and out weekly. But it's the interviewer to me, because an interviewer can help anybody sound interesting because they brought them on their show because they were interested in them. Yeah. And they thought that their listeners would be interested in them.
Yeah, if they're interested in them, then they expect their audience would probably be too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just realized I said we're on Google Play, and maybe people might not understand that. Well, if you're listening, you do, but make sure your friends understand that means we're available on Android, because for a long time, the Android phones did not have access to podcasts. So
very good point. Very good point.
Now they do. And they've only had it it'll be a year next month, because remember, it was last March.
Right.
Remember, we got it all set up ahead of time. So podcasts change. Well, you know, and they continue to change my life. I mean, that one changed my life. They continue to inform my life.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And there's so many more coming out. It's like going to a audio library.
Well, I'm not good about going and looking for other ones.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite writers, Daniel Pink, now has one, and it's 20 minutes, and it's boom, 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 which I love. I just went and checked out a book he was talking about on the last one. It just depends.
But see, that's the thing to me too about podcasts. To me, is they're breadcrumbs. Mm-hmm. You know, there's some where I've listened to, and then it told me about a book that I bought that led to something else, that led to something else.
Right.
And and leads to other podcasts.
Right. Right. I love it. I just love listening to people. I love to talk. I'm sure nobody listening to this is surprised. And Diana's like on the floor. But I also like to listen. Mm-hmm. I love story. I live for story. Always remembering that I like people, like most people, like animals. So there's nothing you can't tell me I don't want to hear.
Well, you know what's also interesting, though, about listening is if that's sort of like not your strong suit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Listening to a podcast helps you develop that.
Amen. Amen.
And if you start paying attention to somebody auditorially, get that word out of my mouth.
With your ears.
Yes, with your ears. Then that helps you develop that skill in real life, too.
I agree. All right, so I don't know what our stamp of brilliance is, but we're going to think of one. Okay. And we'll be right. Diana just looked at me like, what? We'll be right back.
All right. Today, the stamp of brilliance is try a new podcast today.
Raise your hand if you're surprised. Seriously, try a new one. I was just telling Diana I've gotten kind of stuck. I need to add one. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going away, but I want to add one.
Well, I think that's a great idea. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a friend. Also, take a minute to rate it and leave a review on iTunes. Check out our website at uniquelybrilliant.me and sign up to have the podcast delivered directly to your inbox. Shoot any thoughts, comments, and suggestions to talk to us at uniquelybrilliant.me. Easy for me to say. You can find us on YouTube and also reach out to us on our Facebook page. And don't forget to like us. And let us know what new podcast you found.
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
It might be something we want to hear.
Right. Until next time.